Beef, pork belly, seafood, ribs.
I'm on a vegetarian diet for 21 days, which means that I'm forgoing all my favorite meats and seafoods for 3 weeks. In part 1, I visited a town in Bali, Indonesia, popular among surfers that's turning into a vegan paradise, rethinking what plant-based food can look like. I met advocates and detractors of the vegan lifestyle, including people who are disillusioned with the movement. With an abundance of restaurants serving vegan and vegetarian food, being a vegetarian in Bali is easy. I barely even had to think about it. But now I've come to Hong Kong, a city with one of the highest meat consumption per capita in the world, to see if I can continue my meatless trial.
Chicken, fish, chicken, 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 chicken. Do you have vegetarian?
The pineapple.
Oh, just the pineapple? So they just said no and they kind of almost laughed at me too. I don't know why it was so funny. Vegetarian?
No, we don't have vegetarian food here.
This is rice rolls. It's the only thing on the menu that is vegetarian. Here I go. Very plain.
Yeah.
Of course, eating vegetarian or vegan is possible here, but it'll take a lot more planning and willpower. Manav Gupta lives in Hong Kong and has been a vegetarian his whole life. I meet him at a vegetarian restaurant in the heart of Hong Kong's Central District.
Meat today has been presented as a product that makes you feel more like a man, more like a human, gives you more protein, it's nutritious. Whereas plant-based foods is the food of the animals. It's the food that you should let the animals eat, and thus you should eat them.
He thinks a lot of what we eat comes down to social acceptance.
If you go out to a restaurant, you're eating with your peers, they think that if you're eating vegan or veg, it's almost emasculating in many ways. So a lot of people choose to eat meat or consume meat, even though they sometimes would be open to consuming the plant-based alternative.
He's so passionate about the vegetarian lifestyle that he's now investing in startups through a food accelerator. He ultimately wants to remove animals entirely from the food system. From startups to celebrities, vegetarian and vegan diets are being promoted in unprecedented ways. Despite the popularity of the movement though, the global average of meat consumption per capita has increased by around 44 pounds since 1961, with developed countries accounting for the lion's share. Rising incomes in countries like China and Brazil also mean meat consumption has gone up dramatically, with the exception of India due to its lacto-vegetarian diets. And global meat production has gone up by over 400% overall in the past 5 decades to meet the demand.
It's going to be a tipping point in 5 to 10 years.
That's Pat Brown. He's the founder and CEO of Impossible Foods, a startup offering plant-based alternatives that look and even taste just like meat.
Everybody's going to realize that the animals of food technology is basically going to disappear very soon.
He wants to replace animals entirely from our food system by 2035, which is ambitious and maybe even unrealistic, as meat consumption rises globally, driven by a rising middle class. In China, the average person went from consuming just 9 pounds of meat per year in 1961 to 137 pounds per year by 2013.
The trend of eating more animal-based protein is increasing.
Lily Ng is the CEO of Foodie, a food magazine and online platform based in Hong Kong.
As countries getting wealthier, there's a tendency to eat more meat as a sign of wealth, as a sign of I can afford it.
In Hong Kong, where meat is a staple in most dishes, I'm having a hard time getting by on vegetarian-only options.
Out of all 8 of them, none of them are vegetarian. What about this side? Seafood, pork. Today is day 19 and I definitely feel a lot different, and not in a good way. I feel like I'm a lot more hungry here. I feel like vegetarianism is more of an afterthought. The only option available for me was that white rice, mushroom, and tofu option. Not bad, but not that exciting either. Yesterday my colleagues ordered from a chicken restaurant. I had to sit that one out. It's a lot more challenging here, but having said that, I'm still trying it. So I found a doable option. I got a wrap with avocado, tomato, and pine nuts. Just in case I'm not full from that, I also got a carrot soup as well.
Yet, in just a few months, I've also noticed more meatless alternatives, mainly the Impossible Burger, being marketed in more cafes and restaurants. Then there's chefs like Tom Burney, who's putting meatless substitutes side by side with actual meat.
On this side, we're using Omni Pork.
Wow, it looks the same. It looks very similar.
As we want to eat more vegetables, I think plant-based protein or plant-based meat is a very good way of incorporating vegetables in our regular diet.
She thinks more chefs need to embrace meatless alternatives to be creative and find food concepts that look and taste good. My 21-day journey as a vegetarian is coming to an end. While I definitely felt good most of the time, I had a huge craving for chicken. I also noticed the importance of my environment. In Bali, it was easy. I enjoyed it even. But in Hong Kong, it was a pretty big challenge. And while I didn't decide to make this a permanent lifestyle, the experiment made me question how much meat I need to be consuming and ultimately break the idea that most of my meals need to include meat. There is even a label for my newfound realization, called flexitarian. It's someone who eats primarily plant-based but occasionally eats meat and dairy products too. Okay, you could argue that the term is less of a diet per se and more of a lifestyle, and it's true. But if choosing to consume less meat overall could have a positive impact on our planet and potentially our physical health too, then maybe it's a label I can get on board with.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Check out part 1 here in case you missed it, and let us know in the comments below, do you think animals will eventually make their way out of our food system completely? While you're at it, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.